When his mother died, he thought her silence died with her. But the night he opened her hidden chest, he found a truth that shattered everything he knew. A brother he never met, a life stolen from them, and a secret powerful enough to rip a family apart even decades later. Some truths heal. This one didn't. It changed everything. Step in with me. The deeper we go, the clearer everything becomes.
Tales of Africa by Mr. Prince.
Kojo Mensah had spent most of his 32 years avoiding unfinished conversations. It was easier that way, especially with his late mother, a Kojo Mensah, whose eyes always seemed to hold back a story she wasn't ready to tell. Now, standing in the dimly lit living room of their old house in Bantama, Kumasi, he felt the weight of the silence she left behind. The funeral was done. The condolences had ceased. But the echoes of her quiet, unfinished truth haunted the air like a stubborn spirit. He had always known she kept something buried, something that made her eyes wander whenever he asked about his father. After the burial, his Aunt Abina had begged him to move on, to let sleeping secrets rest. But Kojo couldn't. He wasn't wired like that. As the last-born, he was the one who lived closest to her. The one she confided in, except for the part that mattered the most. The part that now rattled inside him, stirring late at night. Before she died, she whispered, "Don't let them tell you who you are. The truth is in this house." She never said where. She never said what. But Kojo believed she hid something. Something that would explain why she never spoke of his father. Why she worked so hard, never remarried, and never trusted anyone outside the family. The house was old. The kind of old that held memories in the cracks of its walls. As Kojo began rearranging her things, an old wooden chest caught his attention, tucked away behind layers of dust and forgotten clothes under her bed. It was locked. Heavy. Ancient. His pulse quickened. He'd never seen it before. His mother wasn't a woman of secrets, at least not in the ordinary sense. She was kind, prayerful, respected. Yet, this chest felt like it belonged to someone else. Someone who lived a double life. Kojo sat on the floor beside the chest, staring. 1,000 questions filled the room. Could this be the truth she wanted him to find? Or was he chasing a ghost buried in grief and imagination? The weight of the key, missing or hidden, was the only thing standing between him and answers he wasn't sure he was ready to know. His phone buzzed just then. A message from Aunt Abina. "Kojo, we need to talk. There's something I didn't tell you about your mother." And instantly, the chest no longer felt like the only thing locked in that house. Kojo stood at the old wooden gate, staring into the mango-filled courtyard of Aunt Abina's home in Atonsu. He hadn't visited since the burial, but her message bothered him so much he drove straight after work. The peeling yellow paint on the house looked older, just like his aunt. Inside, she sat by her woven fan, her eyes tired like she hadn't slept in days. Kojo didn't waste time. "What is it you didn't tell me?" he asked. The words sounded sharper than he intended. She sighed, motioned him to sit, and took a long breath, the kind people take before telling stories that hurt. "Your mother wasn't always like that," Aunt Abina began quietly. "Before you were born, she was full of life. Bold. Not afraid of anything." Kojo felt a wave of confusion. "What changed?" he asked. She hesitated, then continued, "A man. A man who promised her forever, then left her with a wound so deep, she hid it for the rest of her life." Kojo's chest tightened. "My father?" he asked. Aunt Abina nodded. Yes, but not in the way you think. Kojo's mind started racing. He'd always assumed his father left before he was born. He never imagined something darker could be buried in that silence. She found out the truth about him too late, Antabina said. By then, she was pregnant with you. She wanted to tell you as you grew, but the shame was too much. She lived her whole life trying to protect you from his shadow. Kojo clenched his fists. Anger and dread collided inside him. Who was he? What did he do? He asked. Antabina looked away. I don't know everything, she whispered. But whatever she locked up in that house, that chest, will tell you more than I ever could. Kojo leaned back, swallowing a rising fear. The chest, the wooden dust-covered box he found, now felt like more than a physical object. It felt like a doorway. A door between who he thought he was and who he really might be. How did she get the key? Kojo asked. Abina shook her head. She always wore it as a necklace, a small, heart-shaped pendant. When she died, I thought they buried her with it. Kojo froze. But I didn't see any pendant, he said. Abina frowned. It might still be in the house, Kojo. Your answer is waiting. As he left her house, Kojo felt his heart pounding harder. The truth was still in his mother's home, in that chest, and now he knew there was no way he could walk away. The truth wasn't just buried. It was waiting, and it was alive. Kojo drove back to his late mother's house in Bantama as the harmattan wind brushed through the evening sky. The streets of Kumasi glowed with a soft orange haze, and life carried on as if the world wasn't hiding a truth that could break or rebuild him. He pulled up in front of the house, still carrying the weight of Antabina's words. His footsteps felt heavier this time, like someone was walking beside him. The shadows seemed longer, the quiet louder. Secrets had a way of doing that. Inside, the house smelled of old wood and memories. The chest still sat where he left it, silent but commanding. But now he knew what to look for, the pendant. The key. The one thing that could expose what his mother died protecting. He started with her bedroom, tearing through drawers and boxes, hoping the universe would guide him. The clock ticked slowly, like time was mocking him. Nothing. Then he remembered, the day before she died, she'd been lying in the bed by the window. The sunlight had hit her in a strange way. He returned there, stood at the edge of the bed, and lifted the faded pillow. There it was. A small heart-shaped pendant, its chain slightly rusted, but its shape still recognizable. Kojo stared at it, tears burning the back of his eyes. He'd seen her wear this when he was younger, always thought it was sentimental. Never imagined it held a key inside. His fingers trembled as he opened the pendant. A tiny metal key lay inside, light as a whisper. He held it for a moment, unable to breathe. Why didn't you tell me, Ma? He whispered. His voice cracked, and the room swallowed the sound like it had swallowed too many truths already. With a deep inhale, he walked back to the chest. The wood felt colder under his touch than before. The lock slid open with ease, as if waiting for him all along. Kojo lifted the lid slowly. Inside was a stack of old letters, wrapped in a faded cloth. Underneath, a worn leather journal. A small envelope with his name on it, in his mother's handwriting. His hand hovered. His world began to tilt. Every breath felt heavy. His mother had written to him, knowing he would one day open this. But just as he reached for the letter, one paper caught his eye, a birth certificate. Not his. Someone else's. A name he'd never seen. Kwame Owusu, father. His stomach clenched. His entire identity was about to change. And for the first time, Kojo wondered if the truth might destroy him before it set him free. Kojo felt a surge of cold run through him as he stared at the name on the birth certificate, Kwame Owusu, listed as his father. But not Kojo's birth certificate. This one belonged to someone else. Someone connected, but not him. His hands began to shake as he sifted through the next batch of documents, each yellowed by time, each telling a part of a story he didn't know he was living. He unfolded a letter, dated 1992. It was from his mother, addressed to Kwame. The tone was soft, emotional, almost desperate. "I cannot protect both of them if you keep lying to everyone," she wrote. "Our son deserves the truth, but I won't let your shame become his burden. I'm raising 2 boys, but only one of them knows who you really are." Kojo's breath caught. 2 boys? His mind raced. Had he grown up with a brother? Was he living among lies his whole life? He scanned the next few letters and the pieces started fitting, painfully, like glass in the skin. His mother had been in a relationship with Kwame, a powerful, married man in Kumasi. When she had Kojo, Kwame abandoned them, afraid his reputation would shatter. But before that, they'd had another child, a son, born a year before Kojo. The one whose birth certificate was in the chest. Kojo felt his world blur. He had a brother, somewhere out there. A brother he didn't know. The next item in the chest was a photograph, a little boy, no older than 10. Bright eyes. A smile Kojo recognized from the mirror. On the back it read, Kwame Jr., 2001. That was all. No surname. No address. Just a ghost. A ghost with his blood. Kojo's hands trembled as he reached for the envelope with his name. He opened it slowly, bracing himself for the truth. His mother's writing stared back at him. Kojo, my son. If you're reading this, then I am gone. I didn't want this burden to be yours, but the truth cannot stay buried forever. You have a brother. I had to protect you both from a man who cared more about his name than his children. I raised you in silence to protect your peace. But you deserve to know who you are, and who he is. Kojo's heart broke. Tears rolled down his cheeks, heavy with grief and a new burning anger. He had spent his life believing he was alone. But now he knew someone else shared his story. The silence was not just his mother's, it had been passed down. He looked at the leather journal and then back at the picture. In that moment, he knew what he needed to do. Secrets don't die when they are buried. They only sleep, until someone digs them back up. And Kojo wasn't done digging. The next morning, Kojo woke with a fire in his chest. The kind of heat that doesn't let you go back to sleep, even when your body begs for it. He'd barely closed his eyes after reading his mother's letter, but something stronger than exhaustion had taken hold, a mission. He needed to know who his brother was. Needed to know if Kwame Owusu was still alive, still hiding. Needed to understand what kind of man could abandon not one, but 2 sons. He spent hours flipping through the old journal. Page after page was filled with details from his mother's life. Her pregnancy with Kojo, her decision to raise him without the shadow of Kwame's influence, her regrets over losing her first son to his father's world. The journal revealed that Kwame had taken the elder child from her when she tried to expose him. He said he'd ruin me, she wrote. And I was too young, too frightened. I let him take Kwame Jr. I never forgave myself. I hope one day you will forgive me too. Kojo shut the journal, heart thundering in his chest. He had a brother somewhere in Ghana. A brother raised in a different world, maybe not knowing his mother, maybe living under their father's lies. The thought ate at him. He dressed quickly and drove to the Kumasi Regional Archives, hoping fate would help him. He searched through old school records, voter registrations, business directories. Nothing. The name Kwame Owusu was too common. Too many men, too many lives. But then one file stood out, a politician from the late 90s who'd vanished from public life after a scandal involving a woman and an illegitimate child. Kojo's pulse quickened. He traced the associated address and shut the file. It was time to go. The house was in Kodi, quiet, wealthy, walled. Kojo stood at the gate, shaking slightly. He didn't know what he expected. A father ready to apologize? A brother waiting to embrace him? Or a closed door and another set of lies? He knocked. A young woman opened the door, her eyes cold but curious. "Can I help you?" she asked. Kojo's voice came out hoarse. "I'm looking for Kwame Owusu." Her gaze shifted. Not surprised, but guarded. "Mr. Owusu passed away 3 years ago," she said. Kojo felt an unexpected wave of relief mixed with frustration. The ghost was gone. But what about the living? Did he have a son? Kojo asked. She nodded slowly. Yes. Kwame Jr. He lives in Accra now. Why? Kojo felt breath returning. He was close. So close. The journey wasn't over. It was just beginning. He got back into his car, the wind blowing through the cracked window as he whispered to the empty seat beside him, "I'm coming, brother. I'm coming to finish what she started." By the time Kojo reached Accra, the sun had already dipped behind the high-rise skyline of East Legon. The city was alive, buses honking, lights flickering, people laughing in the distance. But for Kojo, the world felt quieter, like time was pausing just for him. He sat alone in his rented car, staring at the address he'd written down on a crumpled piece of paper. It belonged to Kwame Owusu Jr., a man he had never met but shared blood with. A brother, hidden by lies. A part of him torn from the life he knew. Kojo stood outside a modern apartment building, feeling the weight of 32 years of silence crushing down on him. He wasn't sure what to say when the door opened. He wasn't sure what kind of man waited behind it. Would he be angry? Shocked? Or worse, indifferent? He gathered his courage, rang the doorbell, and waited. The door swung open. A tall, well-dressed man with sharp features and reserved eyes stood before him. Kojo felt a jolt. They looked alike. The jawline. The eyes. The expression that guarded emotion like it was fragile gold. "Can I help you?" the man asked. His voice was calm, smooth, unbothered. Kojo swallowed a lump. "My name is Kojo Mensah," he said quietly. I'm your brother." The silence that followed felt like a lifetime. The man stared at him, unblinking, processing the unfamiliar truth. "My brother died a long time ago," he finally said. "Our father told me my mother left. That she didn't want us." Kojo shook his head, his voice trembling. "That's not true. Our mother fought for you. He took you from her." He told him about the journal, the letters, the chest, the lies. He didn't know how much the truth would hurt, but lies had kept them apart long enough. Kwame Jr.'s expression shifted, the calm breaking. His shoulders dropped. He turned away for a moment, grappling with a lifetime of deception. "So all these years," he whispered, "I hated the wrong person." Tears welled in his eyes. Kojo stepped closer but stopped himself. This wasn't the kind of moment you rushed. It was a wound that had been bleeding for too long to heal quickly. Why did he lie to me? Kwame asked, voice breaking. Kojo felt his own heart shatter. Because the truth would have exposed him, he said. He let us grow up without each other just to protect his name. They stood in the doorway, two strangers bound by blood, broken by silence. But in that moment, something shifted. The world didn't feel so empty anymore. Kojo could see the pain in his brother's eyes, a pain that mirrored his own. Betrayal. Loss. Guilt for hating a mother who loved him till her last breath. Finally, Kwame spoke. Come in, he said softly. There's a lot I think we both need to hear. And for the first time in their lives, they walked into a room not as strangers, but as brothers, ready to uncover the truths they didn't bury, but inherited. The living room was quiet, the kind of quiet that follows a storm no one saw coming. Kojo sat on one end of the couch, watching his brother, Kwame Jr., trace the edges of their mother's journal with trembling fingers. There wasn't much to say. Not yet. The truth had been spoken, but healing was still learning how to walk in the space between them. Kojo understood. He'd had time to process. Kwame was just beginning. She wrote all this, and I never knew, Kwame whispered, his voice thick with regret. All those years. I hated her. I thought she left me. Kojo nodded slowly. She thought she was protecting you. Protecting us. But the silence, it became its own kind of wound. Kwame closed the journal and leaned back, staring at the ceiling like he was searching for a way to breathe again. You think we could have had a different life? He asked quietly. Kojo took a breath. Maybe. But this, he gestured around the room, at the journal, at themselves, this is what we've got. A painful gift. A truth that doesn't fix things, but stops the lies from growing. Silence settled again. But this time, it wasn't hollow. It was full of understanding. And then Kwame said the words Kojo didn't even know he needed to hear. I'm glad you found me, Kojo. The tears came again, but not from sadness this time. They came from a place of relief, of acceptance, of finally belonging somewhere that didn't feel like a lie. Kojo nodded, eyes wet. I didn't want to do this alone anymore. There it was, the truth beneath the truth. The secret his mother had buried had been growing its roots into both their lives, poisoning the soil with loneliness, shame, and loss. But now, the digging was done. The secret was out. And though it didn't set anyone free, it made room for something new. Kojo stood to leave, but before he reached the door, Kwame spoke again. We should visit her grave together, he said, voice steady. She deserves to see us side by side. Kojo froze, overcome. He turned and gave a small nod. She really does. As he stepped out into the night, the dark sky over Accra felt strangely calm, like it had been holding its breath too. The past was behind him, but not forgotten. The future was ahead, but not promised. What mattered, what really mattered, was that two sons who never knew each other now shared the same truth. And a mother's silence had not ended in emptiness, but in connection. Secrets don't die quietly after all. They wait. Until someone is brave enough to dig them back up. Some secrets are born from love, others from shame, but all of them grow in the dark. They do not disappear with time or silence, but with truth. We may inherit wounds we didn't choose, but we also inherit the power to heal from them. The past isn't always a place to escape. Sometimes it's where we must go to reclaim who we are. Healing doesn't come from forgetting, but from unburying what was hidden and letting it breathe. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, let it move through others. Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more real African tales.